Yeah. So, well, to start with, right before this started, I'm doing laundry tonight, Sunday night, and I went downstairs and I said, "So, honey, can you see the coffee stain on this shirt?" And he said, "No, just tilt your camera a little bit. Nobody will notice." This is why I love my husband. So you won't see the coffee stain on my shirt. I love Zoom. Actually, I don't love Zoom. So this is a little bit different for me, again, talking on Zoom, but I'm glad to be here. Thank you for asking me. And my name is Doreen, and I am an alcoholic. Yeah, it's like, thank you. Thanks for having me. Let's see. My sobriety date is March 6th, 1988. So I have been sober for way long time, it seems. Yeah. And it's crazy. It's crazy. I just picked up my 33 years this year. And, every year I just think, wow, yeah, thank you. It's just, I never thought that I would be sober this long and that I would have such a good life. And I do. I have a great life. Um, just to start out, I know Leslie because I work for Pavillon. I actually live in the Raleigh area. I do business development for Pavillon. So
I lost my sound.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. So yeah, so I live in the Raleigh area. I do business development for Pavillon, and I have not been out on campus for over a year, and I miss it, and I can't wait to get back out there. There's something very spiritual about Pavillon.
What's
So
that?
I really like working out there, and it's just beautiful. So anyway, so let me tell you a little bit of my story, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So let's see.
Yeah. Please check your connection or use a different speaker.
Can you hear me?
Excuse me just a minute, Doreen. For those of you, if you're not speaking, if you could please remember to keep yourselves muted. If you are having problems with your sound, just let me know or shoot me a text in the chat bar there. Thank you so much. Excuse me, Doreen.
No problem. No problem. It's actually kind of weird, so I'm used to being at a real meeting where there's some feedback and, laughter and booze and whatever else going on, but this is so quiet, so weird. But anyway, okay, so what it was like, well, I can tell you that because I've been sober for a while, it's sometimes kind of hard to remember some of the specifics of what it was like, because it was a long time ago. But what I definitely remember is the feeling of what it was like. So that I remember, and I remember the pain and the desperation. And I always tell people that, I didn't really want to quit drinking, to be honest with you. I did not want to quit drinking. I did want to quit hurting, so that I wanted, but I didn't want to quit drinking. Like I said, I was young when I quit. I don't know when my first drink was. I know that after I had stopped drinking, I had been in counseling for a little while afterwards, and I had gone to my mom and, was talking with her, and she said, well, I remember that when you were probably about 4 or 5, your job was to bring your dad his alcohol. And so I remember my dad and my grandma, both alcoholics. But I remember that my role as a young kid was when my dad got home from work, I would take off his work boots for him when he sat back in his lounger, and I would bring him his beer. And it was always my job to do that. And I could take a sip of beer when I gave it to him. And if he left any in the can, I would get that too at the end. So this was like a 4 or 5-year-old. My dad was a daily drinker. So actually it was pointed out to me not too long ago. So does that mean you were a daily drinker at a young age? And I said, I don't know. Maybe it does mean that. I just remember that was my role. So alcohol was just a part of my life. It was a part of the family I grew up in. It was just there. It's what we did. It's how we grew up. My mom was married to him and then divorced and was married a second time. She's always been married to alcoholics. So it's always been that dysfunctional chaos in our home as well. So I would say, again, I qualify a little bit, but my story is probably more about what my life is like now. When I was 11 years old, my mom found my cigarettes, my diary, and my joint underneath my bed. So that was at 11. I can tell you that when I was 13, I was blackout drinking. I had boyfriends by that age. It was definitely blackout drinking. It wasn't just alcohol at that time. There was also other drugs. Back then, yeah, there was lots of other drugs, let's just say. So blackout drinking at 13. I know at 16, I was trying to quit. I knew I had a problem. I knew that I wasn't drinking like other people. A lot of the people around me, some of them drank like me because that's again who I hung out with. But I knew that there was something wrong with me, and I knew that I had a problem, and that was at 16. Um, I remember, I little trouble here and there. Took some cocaine on a school bus to school, got in trouble for that. I don't know, people normally do that sort of stuff, but I got caught with that. I got arrested once, kind of a funny story. So me and my girlfriend and other friend were in a pickup truck. We thought we were taking a shortcut home. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. It's out in the country, the boonies. I was 15 at the time. We're coming down this dirt road, and it turns out it's a private driveway, and there's a couple of guys sitting out on their front porch. Somebody had been stealing their cattle or something, so they thought we were cattle stealers, and they held a gun at our heads and made us lay on the ground, and it was frozen. The ground was frozen. I'm from upstate New York, and shut out the tire to my friend's truck, and it was just a crazy sort of thing. And I did get arrested, though they didn't arrest me all the way because I was 15. So that was like my arrest story. I should have been arrested several other times for drinking and driving. Lots of things that I should have been arrested for, and I wasn't. And I'm grateful for that. Let's see. So, finished up, graduated school. The people that I hung with, again, drank like me. I could not probably begin to tell you the number of people that I have lost to this disease, friends that I used to get high with, friends who ran over by a truck in the middle of the highway, drinking, crossing the road, friends who committed suicide. My best friend, her drinking and drugging took her to prostitution, and she was actually murdered by the gentleman that she was with one night. It's just been, that was kind of my story growing up. I had another friend my own age that died of liver cancer from too much drinking, so this was the crowd that I hung with. The boyfriend that I was with at 17, he was a friend of my older brothers. I come from, there's 7 of us kids in the family. 4 are my half brothers and sisters, and then there's 2 younger than me. So this was a friend of my brothers, my half brothers, and I hung out with him right before I graduated from high school. Went off to college, and he kind of followed me. He was a pretty big drug dealer, and my brother and him had dealt drugs. My brother ended up going to prison for like 3 years because of his drug dealing. But so this guy I hung with for like 4 years. It was crazy. I worked with him. He worked on those smokestacks, the really tall smokestacks, and he climbed at the very top, and he did the work on the very top. So that was the type of people that I was hanging out with. And we had a good friend, we called him Bear, and he climbed to the top of the smokestack one day, and we'd gotten high. Right before he'd done that, he got up there and he forgot to hook off his safety harness, and he stepped backwards and he fell off the smokestack. And and it never occurred to me even at that time that the alcohol, the drugs, the drinking and partying that we were doing played into that. I just thought it was, poor me, poor them, bad choices. Why didn't he hook off? He knew better, that sort of thing. And it was hard to relate the drug use and see that was really what was going on. So anyway, it got worse. Again, there was a lot of other drugs involved in my story. And by the time I was, I think 19, the man that I was with got into some trouble. He was going to go to prison for a couple of years. He actually only ended up about, I think, 9 months in jail. But my life was just completely chaotic. It was, it was unmanageable. I was living in a trailer. I had quit college. I was 3 years into college and I had just quit. I just decided I didn't want to do it anymore. 1 year away from graduating and I walked away. Alcohol and drugs were too large a part of my story, and that's all I wanted to do. So at about 19, he went to jail. And I'm not really sure how this happened, but a friend of mine that I used to drink with all the time wanted to go to an AA meeting. So we decided one night we would go to the AA meeting before we went to the car races. So we walked into this AA meeting, it's the first one I'd ever been to. And it was in a little town that I ended up getting sober in. We walked in and he was wearing a Budweiser hat and he had a big beer t-shirt on. We sat down at the AA table and I just remember just thinking, oh my God, he's wearing this Budweiser hat. They're going to kick us out of here. You know, what are we doing in this AA table? And I don't remember the meeting much. My friend Ronnie, the guy that was wearing a hat, he was just so nervous. And I started laughing because he was so nervous. And we ended up leaving the meeting. We went and we got high and, we drank and went to the races. And then my next bout with AA was maybe a year later. The man that I was with got out of jail and came home. The relationship was very unhealthy. He was physically violent. It was just an unhealthy relationship. And I was just as bad, to be honest with you. I had a lot of anger. It went both ways at that time. And we were just, it was drinking all the time, partying all the time, living in this trailer. And I woke up, well, I kind of came to. It was one of those nights where I kind of came to, I guess, out of a blackout or something. And I sat up and I was on the floor. And I sat up on the floor and I looked around and, it was a normal Saturday night. It was, people laying around, drugs all over, alcohol all over. And I just thought, there's got to be more to life than this. There's just got to be more to life than this. And I didn't stop drinking then. But things got worse in my relationship. He was a bad alcoholic as well. And he ended up, it got bad enough to where, I wanted to quit drinking at times. And sometimes he was the one that wanted to quit drinking, but we couldn't quit drinking together and we couldn't be together without drinking. So that was the dysfunction there. And then along with that, I was just getting sick and tired of being sick and tired, but I was just hurting and I was hurting inside and I didn't know how to stop the pain other than doing what I'd always done. At that point, I had become quite ready to just, say, F it. And I just, didn't even know if I wanted to live anymore. And I remember driving home one night and seeing a tree and thinking, maybe I should just hit that tree. And, I don't know, this is kind of like a muddy part of my story because I don't remember all the exact details. I ended up leaving him and I thought, well, I got to figure my stuff out. I got to get my shit together. I got to figure this out. So I jumped on an airplane and tried that geographical cure that we talked about. And I flew to Florida. I stayed with actually my grandmother down there. And I thought, I'm going to get my act together. I've tried to quit drinking in the past. I've put the drink down and then, found out I was picking it up and didn't even realize I had picked it up and was drinking. I tried all that, drinking only on weekends, all that. So I thought, I am going to get my act together. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to settle down. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to do it without him. And I'm going to focus on myself. Well, so I got myself a job, which I thought was a very good job. It was a cocktail waitress at a bar. And I thought that would be good. And of course I actually went for almost 60 days without drinking. And then one night, one of the girls just said, hey, you want to drink? And I said, sure. And I forgot that I had sworn off. And that had happened before. So this wasn't the first time that I had sworn off and found myself picking up again. Picked up that, drunk again. But the thing that had happened that was a little bit different down there in Florida is one night I decided I was going to go to a meeting. Now, I had gone to the library and picked up an AA book. God forbid I should actually go buy one at a meeting or something. So I picked up an AA book and I started reading that. I had no idea really what I was doing. And I decided that what I really needed was to go to an Al-Anon meeting. It really, if he could get himself fixed, if I could straighten him out, then probably I would be fine. So I decided I need to go to an Al-Anon meeting. So I actually got a taxi and I went to an Al-Anon meeting. And I'm sitting in this Al-Anon room with all these women and couple men sitting there. And I'm just crying. I couldn't stop crying. And through the doorway in the other room, that's where the AA people were. And they were all in there laughing. They're all laughing. I'm sitting there crying. I'm looking through the door. And I'm just realizing I'm in the wrong room. And I knew I was in the wrong room. And so again, I didn't quite stop drinking then. I ended up coming back to New York. The weird thing that had happened during that time is the man that I'd been with for 4 years ended up getting sober. And he'd been sober like 3 or 4 months when I came back to New York. So, smart person that I am, I'm thinking, well, he's probably much better now, so I'll move back in with him. So we went that whole route again. I did end up going to AA. I ended up walking into a meeting and a bunch of older guys there. And I don't remember too much about that meeting other than them telling me that it didn't matter what kind, how much, or how often. It mattered what it did to me and the people around me. And I also remember them saying that my second meeting was the most important one. And other than that, I remember holding on to the edge of my seat, and I was scared to death. I was angry. I just wanted to get out of that room. But something they were saying was making sense, that there was some sort of answer and I didn't have it, but man, I needed it. And I just wanted to stop hurting. And they told me, in order to stop hurting, you need to put the drink down. So that was kind of my first meeting. And that was my first that I count as a real meeting. And it was an out of town meeting because I didn't want to go to any of the meetings in my hometown. But I started going to AA after that. Yeah, it's kind of a jumbled up. It's hard to remember all the details of it. But I know that when I finally hit my bottom, and to me, my bottom was knowing that, we talked about the second step, power greater than ourselves to restore me to sanity. I had gotten to the point where I really did think I was going insane, and I didn't think that I would die from alcohol or that I would end up in jail. I thought that I would step over that line and become insane. And I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but I thought that I was just losing my mind to that degree. So that step was easier for me, but to get ahead of myself, I came in the rooms. It was in my hometown. Some older guy gave me a white chip and a hug, and I thought, yep, this is what this is all about. It's going to be one of those places. But I stuck around, and it was a morning meeting. I went every single morning at 9 o'clock to this morning meeting, and I just started listening. I just knew I was in the right place. I didn't want to admit I was an alcoholic, but I knew I was. I knew my drinking was insane. I knew if I kept doing what I was doing, I probably was going to end up dead, like so many people that I knew. But I really thought I was going to be insane. So I just kept going. And that first step just started making sense to me. I knew I was powerless over alcohol, sorta, but I knew my life was unmanageable. That was a no-brainer. And and I was young. This is right before my 22nd birthday, and I thought, gosh, who does this young? I'm way too young to stop drinking. I couldn't imagine life without alcohol. What would I do on my next birthday party? What would I do for Christmas? But there was enough other people in the room that I could identify with. And maybe like Leslie said at the beginning of this, my story might be a little bit different, but the feelings were the same. And that's what I found out in the rooms. There were like old people. There was like old people that would talk to me, and I understood exactly what they were saying. And I was 21 years old at the time. They just said, keep coming back. And that's what I did. I just kept coming back. I started to realize that there was an answer there. And so then I started going to meetings. I went like 2 a day, and I did that for months. Not so much because I wanted to, but more because I was afraid not to. I thought for sure I was going to drink again. So I went every morning and every evening, except for Sunday, because there wasn't a Sunday morning meeting. It was only a Sunday evening meeting. And I white knuckled it getting through. Um, Part of my story that I left out was that I also had an alcohol counselor. She tried to send me to detox. This was before I jumped on the plane to go to Florida. So I'd been seeing her for a while. And, you know, she had tried telling me, getting some sense into me, which I didn't take any of her advice. So I didn't go to detox. By the time I got home and before I got into AA, I pretty much detoxed at home, which wasn't fun for those of you who might have had that experience. And I just kept going to AA, and I kept doing some counseling on the side, and I kept going to AA. And, I did come to realize that I was powerless over alcohol. And I learned that by looking at my own story and listening to others, and then that second step came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Again, I just knew that my thinking was insane. That step was not difficult for me. I knew my thinking was insane. So for me to have a power greater than myself, I knew that was okay. That was fine with me. They told me I could use the rooms. I was good with that, but I knew that my thinking was insane. And that's how I looked at that second step. The third step for me, I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him. So that one, again, balked a little bit. I had no real religious background. The only religious, I remember my mom had sent me to a Sunday school when I was a kid, and I thought that was terrible. And then when I came home one night, 13, 14 years old, drunk about 3 o'clock in the morning, and my mom and my brother were sitting next to my bed, and my mom said something to me, and I told her to F off, and my brother whacked me across the head, and she said, I'm going to send you away to some religious school or something like that. So that was my experience. So that third step, I didn't know what that meant, but they told me I just had to make a start. And I was one of those alcoholics that I really wanted to know what that third step was. Who am I going to be praying to? Who exactly? What religion is it? What deity is it? Is it the right one? It was real. I thought I really needed to know, and I was taught that I didn't need to know. I just needed to make a start. I needed to believe in something somewhere small, and that's all I needed. And that was enough for me in AA. That was simple, and that was enough for me to get started. Went on to that fourth step, made a personal inventory. That was the first time in my life I'd ever done anything like that. I set it up in the columns the way the big book talks about. Went through and did a whole list of who I resented and why, and then what it affected. And in me, I found that it was fear, number one, selfishness, dishonesty, security. Security was a big one. I was always afraid. And the other cool thing that happened with me with the fifth step, when I sat down and did fifth step, it was really taking a look and realizing what part I played in things was important, because I was a woman who was with an abusive man. It was very easy to blame him for everything. And this was the first time that I had to take responsibility for the part that I played in it, even if it was the part that, why did I allow myself to stay in a situation that wasn't healthy for me? So that was a part of my fifth step that came out for me that I really needed to take a look at. I worked with the sponsor that I picked out. She had 8 years of sobriety, and I could not believe that somebody could actually have 8 years of sobriety. But she did. She worked in the prison ministries, always laughing. She always just had a great sense of humor and just was always laughing. And I thought, that's what I want. I want to be able to laugh. And that's what I started learning how to do again in AA, learning how to laugh. So the fifth step went through that. That was eye-opening for me. It helped me so much. The book, from what I understand of the book, was that it's an action program, and I really need to keep up with the action. So for me to take a break in between steps, that wasn't the answer for me. It was next one, next one, next one, and just to keep moving, to get rid of all that stuff I was holding on to. So, looking at my character defects and asking God to remove them, it's one step at a time. I do the best I can. I did the best I could at that time. And a lot of those defects have been removed, and a lot of them are still there. So I keep working on it. Making a list of people I had harmed, and then become willing to make amends to them all through the 8th and 9th step. That one was difficult. There were a few things that were really hard for me to do. But the big book says just do it. So one of the amends that I wanted to make was to my father, who I hadn't seen in years, and he had moved to Virginia, and I just always held everything against him. And I got in the car one day with one of my sponsees, actually, because I didn't even know where he was. And one of my sponsees went with me, and we drove to Virginia, and I made amends to him. And I'm extremely grateful for that. It was a direct amends. I just took the bit and the teeth, like the big book says, and I just did it. And I'm very, very grateful. He passed away a long time ago, but I'm very glad that I was able to do that. So the 10th, 11th, and 12th step, continue to take personal inventory. I think the thing that helped me, probably one of the things that helped me the most getting sober, was my sponsor had me read 84 through 88 in the big book every day. And well, that was in this edition, I think it's 83 through 88. But it begins with the promises, and it just tells me how to start my day and how to end my day. And that's how I learned how to pray. That's how I learned how to take a personal inventory. I would open the pages up, set it on my bed, get on my knees and read it. And I did it every morning and every night for months. And that really helped me out a lot. So that's a lot of like what happened in the beginning of AA, getting sober. I met some of the best people that I'm still friends with today. There was a group of us, we call ourselves the litter group. There was probably 5 or 6 of us. A couple of us died. I'm not one of them, as you can tell, I'm still here. So good people, and the people that I met in the rooms are the ones that helped me raise my kids. When my first marriage fell apart, they were the babysitters. They were the ones that helped me find a job. They were always there for me. I'm closer to some of my AA friends than my own family. AA has taught me so much. I mean, I never thought that I would have the life that I have today. If you had asked me 33 years ago, what I thought would be a good life, I wouldn't have even described this life to you. But as a result of the rooms, I've had 3 children, raised them all. They're doing well relatively. They're all doing well overall. Never seen me drink. I have gone through more things in sobriety than I did when I was younger and drinking. I've lost a sister and a brother, both to cancer. I have gone through a divorce, not 1, but 2, and have gone through that. I have lost everything financially twice. I mean, completely lost everything financially twice. At one point, I walked out of my first marriage with 2 toddlers and a garbage bag full of clothes, and started over again. And this was in sobriety. I've changed jobs. I've changed relationships. I've changed where I live. There's just been so many different things that have happened in sobriety that I've been able to stay sober through. So, that has happened. I was taught to help others. I've always sponsored girls. I've always had a home group. I truly believe in a home group. A home group has saved my life a couple times. There's really, really important to have a home group, I think. I've sponsored girls throughout my years in sobriety, and I try to teach them the same things that were taught to me. It's not my message, it's the AA message, but I try to pass it on the same way it was passed on to me. COVID hit, and it was like my home group called and said, we're shutting down. Oh my God, I've been sober for all these years. I have never heard of anything like this. It was just a shock and I couldn't get past it. And now, a year later, I'm so grateful for the blessings that's come out of COVID for me. We've had, there's 5 of us girls. We've been able to meet outside, socially distanced, right through the winter time, every Tuesday and Thursday night. We've got either on my backyard or my friend's backyard. And we met every single Tuesday and Thursday through the whole year. And that relationship with those girls, I can't begin to explain it. It has been so worth it to stay connected and with other females and to build those relationships. So that's been just a huge blessing. There's been, for me now, so I'll talk a little bit about just me now, where I used to pray 84 through 88, and I used to start my day out with that, and I had a set regimen of what I did every day. And it's changed a little bit throughout the years. I still have a set regimen, but now it's more about meditation. I really, especially this last year, but probably for the past 10 years, I've been working on meditation, mindfulness meditation, and I'm finding that to be extremely helpful in starting my day and ending my day. So I'm very grateful for that. Again, Zoom meetings, I've hit a few. I don't like Zoom as much, I'll be honest, I don't, but I've been blessed with having in-person meetings. So that's been good, but I've also been going to some Zoom meetings. I'm very, very grateful for that. I'll tell you this last little thing here. What time is it? 7:15. Tell you this, I could talk forever about what's happened since I got sober, because that's the part of my life that I love. I love being sober. I love AA. It's just changed. It changed the way I think, and that's what I needed. I needed my thinking changed. To have good sober relationships, to have, a fellowship around me, it's so worth it. And that, it doesn't matter. I came in younger. I know people who've come in at 75, 80 years old and have said the same thing. It really doesn't matter. It's just, you can get off the elevator at any floor. I had an old timer telling me that one time. Get off the elevator at any floor. You don't have to hit a certain bottom. You choose. Get off, start again. So that's been helpful. So I'll end with this is my eldest, I've got 3 kids, grown children. My eldest is 31, my daughter, and I've got 2 sons. My 2 sons live up north, where I'm from, Syracuse area. And they each have a son, so I am a grandma, yes. And one of them is 3 and the other one is 18 months. I don't get to see them as much, but it's great. I have just a great relationship with my 3-year-old grandson. But what happened down here, so my daughter lives down here and she's about 15 minutes from me. And she got pregnant during COVID this last year. And she was pregnant. I couldn't go into the delivery room with her because of all the COVID rules. So her husband ended up going in and that was perfect. It turned out just the way it was supposed to. But we didn't know what she was going to have. And she was positive she was going to have a little girl. And it turns out she had a little girl. So she calls me and she's got me on the video and she says, Mom, look, it's a little girl. And I'm in tears and I'm like, oh gosh. And we had talked about names and I said, so Bethany, what did you name her? And well, we named her Penelope, which is the name we picked out. And I said, great. I said, so what's her middle name? And they said, well, we named her Sharon. So I can't tell the story without crying. So Sharon is my middle name. And I had no idea that they were even considering. And I said, Bethany, why would you name her after me? And she said, Mom, if it wasn't for you and the choices that you've made, I wouldn't even have this little girl. And, that's the sort of stuff, that it's all been worth it, to have a grown daughter say that to you is something I never, ever thought I would hear. And to have a grandbaby picture, I would not be a good camera without a picture. Isn't she gorgeous? Yes. So this is Penelope Sharon. Thank you. And that's the rooms. That's what AA does. That's what sobriety does. I've always heard that, our addiction can affect our family in a big way. And I know it does. Affects our family in a big way. But recovery can affect our family in a huge way as well. And that's what I hold on to. That being said, I'm going to end with that. Thank you, Leslie, for having me, and thanks for letting me drone on.